James Carter thought he had found the love of his life, until one horrifying discovery in his attic revealed that his perfect girlfriend, Vanessa Stone, was actually a fugitive with a trail of bodies behind her. James Carter had always considered himself a realist when it came to love. He wasn't the type to fall quickly or chase fairy tales. At 29, he had his own place in Portland, a steady job as a graphic designer and a tight circle of friends. His life was calm, predictable, and maybe a little boring. After watching his friends pair off and settle down, he decided it was time to put himself back out there. One night, on a quiet weekend, he downloaded a dating app. After a few awkward chats and forgettable dates, a new profile caught his eye. Her name was Vanessa Stone. Vanessa's pictures were captivating, but not in an over-the-top, filtered way. She looked natural, her smile easy and sincere. Her bio was short. She liked the outdoors, good books, and real conversations. Something about it felt different. They matched within an hour, and the conversation started the same night. She asked thoughtful questions, gave clever answers, and within a few days their chats turned into late-night phone calls. It was like they had known each other for years. They met for coffee on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Vanessa was even more beautiful in person, tall, poised, with striking green eyes that seemed to see right through him. But it wasn't just her looks that pulled James in. It was the way she listened, how she made even the simplest conversation feel meaningful. She was confident but soft-spoken, and every story she shared made James want to know more. Their first date turned into their second, then a weekend trip to the coast. Within 2 weeks, Vanessa was spending most of her nights at James's apartment. He didn't care that it was fast. Everything about her felt right. His friends raised their eyebrows at how quickly things had progressed, but he brushed it off. For once he was happy, really happy. Vanessa filled a space in his life he hadn't realized was empty. She never talked much about her past. James, being the trusting type, didn't push. She told him she'd moved around a lot, didn't keep in touch with family, and had been through some rough times she preferred not to revisit. James respected her privacy. Everyone had things they weren't ready to talk about. Besides, Vanessa didn't seem like she was hiding anything. She was kind to his friends, remembered small details about his day, and even got along with his dog, Milo. Their life together felt easy. They went hiking on weekends, cooked together at night, and spent lazy Sundays curled up on the couch, watching documentaries. James felt lucky. He had found someone who understood him, someone who seemed to love him for who he was. Looking back, it all felt too perfect. But at the time, he didn't question it. He couldn't have known that behind Vanessa's warm smile and quiet charm, a darkness was hiding. One that would slowly unravel the life they had built and leave him questioning everything he thought he knew about the woman he loved. The first sign that something was off came one morning in early spring. James woke up to find Vanessa already dressed, keys in hand, saying she had errands to run. That wasn't unusual, but when he asked where she was going, she hesitated before saying she'd just be out for a bit. Hours passed. She didn't answer texts. When she came back in the afternoon, she acted like nothing had happened. James let it go, chalking it up to her needing space. Everyone was entitled to a little privacy, he reasoned. But the odd moments started to pile up. One day, she abruptly changed her phone number. She claimed an ex-boyfriend had been harassing her, and she wanted a clean break. James believed her. He didn't press. She said she'd been through trauma, and he didn't want to be the kind of person who made her relive it. But when it happened again 2 months later, with no explanation other than "people from my past won't leave me alone," he started to feel uneasy. She avoided cameras. Every time they went out, she subtly steered him away from places with heavy surveillance: ATMs, parking garages, stores with visible security. At first, he thought it was coincidence. Later, he wondered if it was calculated. She never took selfies, never posted photos online. She said she didn't like how people overshared and preferred to keep her life private. James admired that at first. Now it felt strange. Then there was the garage. One rainy night, James came home earlier than expected from a business trip. He pulled into the driveway and saw the garage light on. Inside, Vanessa was crouched on the floor, furiously scrubbing something near the back wall. She jumped when he opened the door. Her hands were shaking, but she smiled and said she had spilled some red paint while working on a DIY project. The story made sense, but the smell in the garage was sharp and chemical, more like bleach than paint. When he returned the next morning to check, the floor was clean. Too clean. There were more small things. Vanessa started locking her suitcase even when it was just stored in the closet. She would sometimes leave the apartment for hours with no explanation. James once caught a glimpse of her laptop screen and saw she was using an encrypted email service, something more common in corporate IT circles, not in the daily life of someone who claimed to be a freelance copywriter. Still, every time doubts crept into James's mind, she would do something thoughtful, leave a note in his lunch, surprise him with his favorite dessert, curl up next to him on the couch like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. And maybe that was what made it so hard. Vanessa didn't seem dangerous, she seemed loving. He wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her, but a quiet voice inside him had started to whisper something he didn't want to hear. Something wasn't right, and deep down, he knew the truth was coming, whether he was ready for it or not. It was a Saturday afternoon when James decided to clean out the attic. The space had been ignored for months, a cluttered mess of half-unpacked boxes and forgotten furniture. Vanessa had always said she was allergic to dust and avoided the attic altogether. James didn't mind. He liked having one space in the house that felt like it was entirely his. As he shifted old suitcases and rearranged storage bins, he noticed a patch of insulation that looked disturbed, slightly out of place compared to the rest of the wall. Curiosity got the better of him. He peeled back the insulation and found a small metal box wedged between the beams. It was heavy, cold, and locked with a rusted clasp. At first he thought it might be an old keepsake from the previous owner, but something about it felt more deliberate. He took it downstairs, pried it open with a screwdriver, and immediately wished he hadn't. Inside were several driver's licenses, credit cards, and passports, all with different names and addresses, but with faces that looked unmistakably like Vanessa. Some photos had her with different hairstyles or subtle changes in makeup, but it was clearly her. There were 5 identities in total. Each name sounded generic. Each address listed cities spread across different states. He stared at the documents, trying to make sense of them, but his mind was spinning. Beneath the stack of IDs was an old newspaper clipping, yellowed with age. The headline read, "Body of missing man found in burned cabin, woman still at large." The article detailed the gruesome discovery of a man who had gone missing in Montana 5 years earlier. The suspect was identified as Isabelle Hart, his girlfriend at the time. She had vanished after the fire, and authorities believed she had staged the blaze to cover the murder. No trace of her had been found since. The article included a small photo of Isabelle. Though grainy and low resolution, the woman in the picture had Vanessa's eyes, her jawline, her smile. James's breath caught in his throat. He set the clipping down and backed away from the box. The warmth he once felt for Vanessa was replaced by a cold, hollow fear. He didn't know who she was anymore. Maybe he never had. His hands were trembling, and his instincts screamed at him not to confront her. Not yet. He snapped photos of everything inside the box and sent them to a burner email account he created moments later. Then, with his heart pounding, he made an anonymous call to the local police department and reported what he had found. He didn't give his name. He didn't need to. What mattered was that someone knew. The woman sleeping in his bed, the one who made coffee in the mornings and laughed at his jokes, might have murdered someone. She might have done it more than once. And now she was living in his home, right under his roof, as if nothing had ever happened. The police wasted no time. Within days of receiving the anonymous tip, they quietly reopened a cold case involving Isabelle Hart. The evidence James had uncovered, the IDs, the passports, the newspaper clipping, was enough to suggest that Isabelle hadn't just vanished. She had reinvented herself, multiple times. Authorities began digging into the identities found in the box, and the results were chilling. Each name linked back to a missing person case. One passport matched a woman reported missing in Colorado, last seen with a female friend whose description eerily resembled Vanessa. Another ID belonged to a man in Arizona, who had disappeared under strange circumstances, leaving behind a confused family and no trace of foul play. In every instance, Isabelle, now Vanessa, had been close to the victims, either as a romantic partner or trusted friend. She seemed to drift from place to place, slipping through the cracks before suspicion could catch up to her. Police quietly placed James under protective surveillance without revealing too much. They told him to act normal, not to confront her, and most importantly, not to let her know anything had changed. James agreed, though every moment he spent in the house felt like walking on thin ice. Every glance from her felt sharper. Every question she asked seemed loaded. He couldn't tell if she suspected anything, but she was no fool. She had lived in the shadows for years. Investigators tapped her phone and monitored her internet activity. What they discovered confirmed their worst fears. Vanessa, or Isabelle, was careful, but not flawless. She used secure browsers, encrypted messaging and anonymous forums to stay ahead. Her online trail revealed instructions on forging documents, advice on disappearing without a trace, and conversations that hinted at future plans. One file on her computer contained a list of names, including James's. His was marked with a red asterisk. As the case grew, federal agencies joined in. Isabelle Hart was no longer just a suspect in one murder. She was now tied to multiple crimes across state lines. The picture became clear: she was a predator who targeted people for what she could take from them. Money, security, identity. When things got too complicated or close to exposure, she vanished, sometimes leaving a body behind. All the while, James pretended everything was fine. He laughed when she laughed, made dinner like always, and even planned a weekend getaway she had been hinting at for weeks. But inside, he was unraveling. Sleep became impossible. He would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, knowing the woman next to him might kill him if she found out he had betrayed her. The plan was to arrest her quietly. No confrontation, no warning. Just a knock on the door and handcuffs. But before police could act, something went terribly wrong. On the night they prepared to move in, Vanessa disappeared. No notes, no bags, no signs of struggle. Her phone was left on the kitchen counter. Her car remained in the driveway. She was simply gone, like smoke in the wind. Vanessa's sudden disappearance sent law enforcement into a frenzy. Within hours of discovering she was gone, officers canvassed the neighborhood, questioned neighbors, and checked nearby security footage. Nothing useful surfaced. No one had seen her leave. No vehicles were recorded coming or going. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. The woman known as Vanessa Stone, real name Isabelle Hart, had once again slipped away, this time under the noses of both local police and federal agents. Her phone, left behind on the kitchen counter, was scrubbed clean. No calls, no messages, no location history. Her laptop had been wiped days earlier. It became clear she had anticipated the danger. She knew someone was onto her. Investigators believed she must have spotted a tail or intercepted one of the surveillance signals. Somehow, she had figured it out and executed an escape plan that had likely been in place for months. A few days later, a credible tip came in from a bus terminal in Reno, Nevada. A woman matching Vanessa's description had been spotted boarding a long-distance bus under the name Claire Whitman. She was alone, carrying a single duffel bag. The surveillance footage was blurry, but the way she moved, head down, sunglasses on, avoiding attention, was familiar. By the time the lead was confirmed, she was long gone. For James, the days following her disappearance were filled with a numb kind of shock. The woman he had planned a future with had nearly taken everything from him: his trust, his safety, and possibly even his life. He moved out of the house and went to stay with a cousin in another city. He stopped answering calls from the media. He deleted all his social media accounts and gave up trying to explain anything to anyone. There were too many questions, and no answers that made sense. He couldn't sleep without double-checking locks and scanning every passing face in the street. Every unfamiliar number made his chest tighten. He wondered if she was still watching him, waiting for the right moment to return, or maybe she had already found someone new, another unsuspecting person to wrap in her lies. The FBI placed Isabelle Hart on their most wanted list. Her face was plastered across news reports and missing persons boards. But her ability to change identities, her knowledge of evasion tactics, and her willingness to disappear without a trace made her a ghost. Despite public tips and digital traces, no arrest was ever made. Today, James lives quietly under a different name. He works remotely and rarely stays in one place for long. He still wonders how much of what they shared was real. Did she ever love him, even in her own twisted way, or was he just another name on her list? Another step in her endless path of destruction. Somewhere out there, Isabelle Hart walks free, changing her name, changing her face, and perhaps already weaving her way into someone else's life, smiling that same warm smile, hiding the same dark secret.